guys, Off The Podium, the #1 Olympics podcast on the planet, coming to you today for a long overdue series. We've teased about it, we promoted it and cancelled it and postponed it, and we're finally here. We're finally starting our long journey going over all the Olympics in history, summer, winter, you name it. We're going over every single one, and we're going back to the very first ever modern Olympics that we all remember vividly. We just couldn't get enough of it at the time, and finally we're able to talk about it. Athens 1896, the first Olympics, the first Summer Olympics, the Olympics that brought to life what this podcast would be, essentially. Thanks to these games, we exist. And I'm sure that if we could podcast back in 1896, we would have done all right as well, because technology would have helped us podcast. I don't know. We are excited to do this, and I'm going to bring in the two experts on everything Athens 1896. If you think about those Olympics, you think about these two gentlemen. Jamie Lyko from the US. Jamie, welcome back to Off The Podium.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm pumped because I can imagine you've spent the majority of your life going to bed dreaming about Athens 1896, and now is your time to shine to bring those dreams to reality, isn't it?
It's exciting. It's very exciting.
It is. It really is. And speaking of exciting, Colin Hilding's back. Colin, you're exciting, and you're excited about Athens 1896?
I'm slightly less exciting than Athens 1896, but I'm in the vicinity. That's what matters.
We just need to be slightly in the vicinity of Athens 1896, because this is peak excitement. Like, honestly, if
you know what this is that this was a fly by the seat of your pants Olympics, and I'm definitely in the vicinity of flying by the seat of your pants today.
I think that's what we're here. We're flying by the seat of the pants. We've been teasing this project for a long time, and honestly, we've been talking about doing this for a very long time. But I'm so excited to be here and able to do this, and it's going to be a journey, and we're going to try and keep this very structured and to the point. He says, laughing, to the best of our ability. But obviously, we want to try and recapture the magic of each of these Olympics and really try and go over some great historical moments to bring entertainment and education to people who are listening and watching this as well. Because I, for one, learnt a lot in this myself, because I love the Olympics, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I spent a lot of my time loving the Olympics reading about Athens 1896. I really think it's one of these ones where you know when it started, you know where it started, you know some brief dot points, you've heard of a few athletes, but have you really dug into the history of it? So I think, I don't know about you guys, but I found that this really opened my eyes a little bit more to the Olympics and how it started, and also just how unique and different the Olympics were 30 years ago? Am I doing my math? 130 years, 129 years ago.
29,
yeah. Insane to think that. But yeah, I for one had my mind blown just with some of the facts and things that I learned during this research for this episode.
I was baffled by, just when thinking about the organization, it's just so overwhelming to think that they did it with the technology that they had. I feel like we should have had to plan this podcast writing letters to each other without any email, WhatsApp, etc. That's the thing that blows my mind the most, is that how they planned it in 2 years. Spoiler. I mean, but yeah, I don't know how I can't imagine how they pulled this off.
I just want to start by saying this is the first and only time Ben will ever be able to claim he's educating the public.
Touché.
I don't know if it's actually allowed. There might be bylaws against it or something. But I think probably like most people, your knowledge of 1896 comes down to just the various stories that are told about, how it originated, and not necessarily the games itself. What I think is so interesting about this is that kind of like I was joking about the fly by the seat of your pants, how many of the events were sort of fly by the seat of your pants. And I kind of applaud them that when you see how some of these events played out and how some of them even didn't play out, you really got to appreciate, I guess, the work that was done on the ground level to make this work, because this could have, even at the time it was being done, every single event, every single day, opening ceremonies, whatever, unmitigated disaster. And if this were done in 2025, this would all be all over X and whatever else, and it would be hugely criticized. This would be like Rio, right? But I love the fact that so many near misses, even as this was occurring, and it somehow got pulled off. That was the most fun stuff about researching this, is just how close a lot of these things came to not happening.
I think, if anything, what was born from these first Olympics is the Olympic tradition of every single Olympics getting that news coverage of, they're not ready, we're going to have to move it, cancel the games, this is a joke, it's going to cost millions, it's going to, like, it started in 1896. This isn't a modern thing. This has always been an Olympic tradition. Because if you read about the history of this, so I mean, we're obviously not going to go over the complete history of how the Olympics started and everything along those lines. But essentially, when Pierre de Coubertin announced this was going to be a thing in 1894, he came to Paris and was like, we're going to basically bring back the Olympics back from ancient Olympia. There's obviously been a lot of multi-sport events. I think it was Wenlock in the UK. Yeah. Obviously had a festival that Pierre de Coubertin was familiar with and all this kind of stuff. So he brings it out, announces it. He initially wanted it to be in Paris in 1900 for the World's Fair. It was like, no, we're going to do it in Athens. And essentially everything was on track, but it nearly didn't happen because there was no money. The Greeks were poor. There was financial things. I mean, I'm wearing an Athens 2004 shirt. This is, again, traditional Greek stuff going on with that. Budapest kept being like, hey, guys, we'll have it. It's our 100th anniversary in Hungary. We'll do it. Like, guys, we can do it. And the Greeks like, no, it's fine. Essentially, the Greeks got a lot of money. They got a lot of stamps. There were lotteries. There were all this stuff that they basically did to raise funds for these games so they could still have it. And then, as you say, Colin, like, it goes off basically without a hitch. And all of this was also done in the lead up, if I'm not mistaken, the 75th anniversary of the Greek independence. So there was a sense of national pride and everything going along with these sort of things. And then just judging on some of the history, I mean, we'll talk about it in a moment. The mini series that they did in 1984 basically on this, and showed some of the aspects of it. That essentially athletes who went to these games, it's not like today where it's years upon years of training and you know where you're going to. This is the beauty of these old Olympics that I love. It's like basically people go like, yeah, all right, I might compete. Like, we'll talk about the legend that is Edwin Flack. He basically was just like, oh yeah, I'll book a ticket. I'll go on a boat for 6 days and I'll go to the other side of the world and, well, maybe I'll watch it. And, no, maybe I'll compete. Like, imagine if, in LA, Jamie, you're rocking up and you're just sitting there watching the track and field and you're just like, you know what?
I'll jump in.
All right. Yeah.
High jump. Yeah. Why not? Colin, you're like, discus? I'm not doing much. I've got time. I've got time before the beach volleyball this evening. I'll just go throw a discus. Like, I mean, that's the beauty of this. But I mean, obviously, just with all the organizing and everything for it to come about, and Athens obviously chosen essentially because it's Athens. It's the home of the Olympics, ancient Olympia and everything along those lines, which, I mean, we're going to get to Atlanta one day. And obviously, a lot of people hold negativity against that because it was the 100th anniversary and it wasn't Athens. But I am very happy that in our lifetime we have seen Athens host an Olympics again, because the Olympics is Greece. We don't talk about it enough on this show, and we should, but Greece is the Olympics. That is the home of what we love, and it makes perfect sense. This is where it started. So Athens, I mean, this is usually a part of the show where we're going to talk about the bidding process, how it won, why it won, who was up against it, things like that. But that's basically why we are in Greece. And we're going to go over some facts of 1896 in a minute. I think I've actually jumped ahead basically why Greece was chosen. But hey, we're learning this format right now. But Greece, Olympics, Athens, Pierre de Coubertin, everything along those lines. I feel like we should all have giant moustaches on right now to celebrate the man that is Pierre de Coubertin right now. Jamie shaking his
Sorry,
head.
right as you came up, I had an intruder at the door.
Right, I thought you were just sitting there like,
I'm
no
not
mustache.
It's like, no, I'm not even acknowledging that with a comment, Ben.
Hold on 1 second.
It's all right. We're going there. Colin, you can jump in here. Do you have anything on moustaches basically to add? This is a new format, people. We're learning. All right, we're learning.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I mean, I kind of find it funny, like you said, like the Olympics are Greece and everything, because when you go into a lot of the background about how this came about, I mean, these modern Olympics have way more in common with the Wenlock Games. And then I can't remember what the one was before that, the one during the Shakespearean time that they held. Like, they're pulling a lot more from those things than they would do, but they very specifically zeroed in on it. And what I would love to know is whether they had the idea of, let's call it the Olympics, but I think even like, I don't know if it was Wenlock Games, they actually called the Wenlock Olympics or something like that, but Olympics was a name that had been used in other games.
So it's
prior
in
to
1870. They ran in
Yeah.
Greece, if I'm not mistaken, which they called an Olympics. But it was the Wenlock. I don't know if they were the Wenlock Olympics, but I know what they were the Wenlock Olympian Games. So that's what they were.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, the name they were tied to, but you do have to wonder if it ultimately came down to, we need somebody to fund this thing, and there's a couple people in Greece who are willing to fund it, so let's make this the Greek Olympics. I mean, there's really no way to know now, but I was telling, not this Jamie, I'm just telling, I'll tell this Jamie now. I'm spreading amongst only Jamies. That's what this news is about. If you're not a Jamie, please tune out right now from this podcast. To this day, Greece will enter first, right? Like, they're given that distinction. It is their games. But there are still those similarities. And I feel like if you had done this in Paris, I don't know whether it holds the same prestige. I think that so many people will look back on this and or look back on the Olympics in general, and they're like, well, this is the most important, oldest sporting event in the world, which I guess technically it is. But I mean, we're going to be going through some other sports, even just in our facts here, that predated the modern Olympics. But it'll forever be associated with Greece. And I'm kind of glad for that, because it gives it that prestige.
Yeah, I think if it had been held in Paris, the Olympics would have maintained this even more European-centric feel than they already have. I mean, even the Olympic headquarters where it is, where it is, I've always felt like the Olympics belong to Europe, and we were all in the United States was always kind of just scratching our way in to try to get the game to the United States. So yeah, I agree. Greece is where it should be. And if you ask a lot of people in 1980, Greece is where it should always be. But when all the major boycotts started, so.
It was also, I remember during Athens 2004 that obviously you sort of had that conundrum of Greece is hosting traditions. Do they come out first or they come out last? And I remember they entered the stadium with just like one person carrying a Greek flag to start the Parade of Nations before obviously Greece would come out at the end. So they still honor that tradition. And they still obviously will do that, even as we sort of see in the modern Olympics, where a lot of countries the order of the nations are done because it's their national alphabet, like might be different to the English alphabet. And that confuses us English speakers, but then they will still always have Greece at the front, which again, love that tradition. Absolutely love that tradition with it. I jumped ahead. We're not meant to get to that part till after, but we're going to go over some facts of the year 1896. This is a fun part where I'm very much looking forward to learning about history, because I'm dumb. I don't do history very well, so I'm going to learn a lot of shit in this part right now. So I'm just going to quick fire some of these ones here to give some context. We're going back 130 years, basically 129 years. So the US president, let's start off with the big wig, because Jamie, USA. Grover Cleveland. Now, this is a part where I can say I've heard of the guy, but do I know whether he's a good or a bad president? I don't know. So Jamie, tell us anything that you know. Put you on the spot. Give me your Grover Cleveland history or anything we should know about this man.
Like a current leader of the free world, as we like to call him, Grover Cleveland served 2 non-consecutive terms. He was the 22nd and the 24th president. He was the first president to be recorded on film, like video. He was the first president to be married in the White House, first president to have a child born in the White House. And that's about it for interesting facts. What I got, historian Henry F. Gaff said, as the nation's chief executive, he had no real vision for the future, nor was he interested in articulating one, suggesting that his was still a pre-modern presidency. His lack of college education, most unique among the nation's presidents, left him largely unfamiliar with the great ideas of history. So not exactly, well, he's not the worst president we've ever had.
Okay.
But yeah, he's generally ranks pretty low when they do the polls of the greatest presidents in history.
I've pulled that up, actually. I wanted to check that. CBS News. This is the first one I found. 26th best president, apparently. Just below William Taft and just ahead of James Garfield. So he's ahead of a cat-eating lasagna, a lasagna-eating cat, a cat-eating lasagna. This lasagna just walks around eating cats, apparently. And Taft.
Taft ate a lot of lasagna, too. So,
all right. And
he ate a lot of everything.
Is the city of Cleveland named after Grover Cleveland?
No, Ohio would have existed, I don't know, 70 years before. I mean, maybe it is. That's a great question, but I don't think so.
Is the Muppet?
I believe Cleveland would have been established as a city long before the 1880s.
Is the Muppet Grover named after Grover Cleveland? Yeah,
it's my favorite Muppet. So keep Grover's name out of your mouth.
Number 7 for me. The Prime Minister of Canada.
Are you an Elmo guy? You're an Elmo guy.
I'm an Oscar the Grouch man.
That tracks. That tracks.
I mean, come on. The Prime Minister of Canada, Colin. Now, I had to dig because it confused me. Because I'm not going to lie. I did maybe use ChatGPT to help me out a little bit here. But as we know, ChatGPT can be wrong. It was very wrong with some of these ones. I had to correct it a few times. But you had 2 prime ministers in 1896, if I'm not mistaken. But the one who was prime minister at the time during the Olympics, Sir Mackenzie Bow. Now, anybody with the last name of Bow is going to make you have a movement. Do we know anything about Sir Mackenzie Bow at all?
I mean, I had to look it up. So when you sent that list, I'm like, I saw the name Mackenzie, and I mean, like, nah, Ben got this wrong. He's ChatGPT. But that was only because one of the most famous Canadian prime ministers is William Lyon Mackenzie. So when I saw the name Mackenzie, I'm like, it wasn't William Lyon Mackenzie. He's decades off here. But I hadn't even heard about Mackenzie Bowell or Bowl, or I don't know what it is. So I had to look it up. Basically, he wasn't elected. He succeeded the prime minister prior to him who died, served for 2 terms, basically lost his leadership because he made a lot of controversial decisions, which directly affected my province here in Manitoba, I guess. And he stepped down and he was gone basically, I guess, not long after the Olympics. I don't have the exact date here for when he stepped down. But he was a very brief flash in the pan for Canada, I guess. Well, and not the most famous Mackenzie.
I'm looking here, and I don't know if this is how accurate this is, because this is just on a Wikipedia article. It's the historical rankings of prime ministers of Canada. And based on this, they've aggregated a bunch of, there was a Maclean's poll in 97, one in 2011, one in 2016. Apparently, he's the 5th greatest Canadian prime minister of all time. Above Sir Charles Tupper and below Sir John Thompson. This same poll does have Justin Trudeau as the worst prime minister in the history of Canada. So I don't know if that's accurate, but hey, this is just what I'm reading.
No, that's probably accurate. The funny thing is I found one here. There was a 1998 study that ranked the 20 prime ministers of Canada up until that point, and he was ranked 19 out of 20. So one of these is right. One of them is definitely wrong. I'm going to lean towards, based on what I read about him and how short his term was, that he's probably more like 19 out of 20.
Yeah, I mean, bowel movement, whatever. The Prime Minister of Australia, there was none. Australia technically wasn't a country in 1896. We were a collection of 6 colonies, essentially, filled with prisoners who stole bread. So we'll get to Edwin Flack about this sort of very shortly, but we had no Prime Minister.
He was Prime Minister.
He basically was. I mean, to be honest with you, there's going to be at least another one of these before we can talk about an Australian Prime Minister, because we weren't a country until 1901. So even in Paris in 4 years' time, we're not having a Prime Minister there. Now we're going to go over this fun facts about things like gallons of milk, how much the price was, and litre of petrol. Again, very sporadic information for 1896. This will, trust me, people, this will be a better segment in the future once we get to more modern ones. But I couldn't find any information on how much a litre of milk, or a gallon of milk. Sorry, Jamie. We'll use the metric and both there. So I couldn't find any information.
Was there a metric at that point?
Probably not, but
that's probably why you couldn't find it.
I'll convert it for us normal people. The only information I could find on a litre of petrol, which, I mean, we barely had motor cars in 1896, did we? 9 cents a gallon for a gallon of petrol. That's not bad. Jamie, you'd go for that, wouldn't you? 9 cents a gallon?
Well, it's even better here. It was 7 cents. So, yeah,
there
7 cents, half the price of a gallon of milk, which was 14 cents.
Oh, so you've got the milk facts. Hey, I should be thrown to you for these facts, because apparently I just didn't do my research. So, you know, and that's in the US, obviously. We'll clarify that one. But ones that we can't really go over here. The number one song, I mean, there was music in 1896, but I don't think Billboard exists in 1896. Same with albums. Movies, I think we're a few years away from having movies basically be invented. And TV.
Don't be so sure.
No, Jamie, please.
Don't be so sure. In the United States, William Heiss makes a film called The Kiss, which was 18 seconds of 2 people kissing, and it is oft cited as being the first rom-com.
Well, I got to say, I'm used to having 18 seconds of fun when it comes to kissing, so I might need to see that movie. Colin, that's a sex joke. Look it up.
I'm already Googling.
60 years until TV, basically, at that point. So there we go. But the ones that I like to go over here, the sporting ones, this is related. Jamie, the Super Bowl. That wasn't a thing, was it? So we didn't have a Super Bowl champion, did we, in 1896?
It was not. We had no organized American football at that point. We did actually. Major League Baseball hadn't even formed as it is today. There was something called the National League, and the Orioles, now the Baltimore Orioles, won. We had this is already the 22nd year of the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, wow.
I knew. Yeah, that's what I said. I knew it was old. I didn't know it was 22 years older than the Olympics old, but Ben Brush won. That's the horse, the jockey, I think.
That's my long lost brother to Basil Brush, isn't it? Ben Brush.
But Princeton College is retroactively recognized as the college football national championships because people abroad may not know that college football ruled football until, even into the 60s. It was way more popular than professional football. So, go Princeton. Go Tigers.
Still is in large portions of your country too, is it not? So,
and certainly in the South, where most of the states don't have professional teams, it's a little religious, cultish, tribalish, whatever you want to.
Speaking of religious and tribalistic, Colin Hilding, who won the Stanley Cup in 1896?
That'd be the Winnipeg Victorias.
Oh, look at that. Winnipeg have a Stanley Cup.
Now, I should say this is pre-formation of the NHL. And at this point, the Stanley Cup was something that was like, it's so convoluted how it was awarded. There'd be multiple champions within a year and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about the Winnipeg Victorias is that this won't actually be the last time we talk about them, and not even in this segment, because in a couple of decades, at least in terms of when the Olympics are held, but probably a couple decades by the time we get to the episode, we will talk about them when hockey actually becomes an Olympic thing. So this being the year of the first Olympics and that the Winnipeg Victorias happened to win the Stanley Cup that year, we'll definitely come back once we get to hockey in the Olympics.
I have a book, and I've read it, funnily enough. It's on the history of the Stanley Cup. It's a brilliant read. And I would love to do a podcast series on the Stanley Cup. Like, it's a completely different show to this one. But, it's a fascinating history. And the fact that I love about the Stanley Cup is that it is not owned by the NHL. It is basically just owned and run by the family and the basically the history of the people who own that cup. And it is only given to the NHL because that is the most prestigious league on the planet. If the NHL tomorrow got overtaken by like the WHL or some league in Finland, they technically can go, see your NHL, we're going to go award the Stanley Cup to them, because it essentially comes down to what is the most prestigious competition on the planet. So, didn't know if you knew that, but that's a fun fact that I love, and that's the beauty of the Stanley Cup. We're also going to, this part for Australian perspective, our biggest sport. Sorry, rugby fans, but it is the Australian Football League in this country, no matter what you say. In 1896, we were a year away from the formation of what was then the Victorian Football League, the VFL. So literally when we had the big events that happened in 1896, the formation of the Victorian Football League was one of the big events in this part of the world. So this is the only time we'll ever say we're a year away from that competition starting. But the precursor to the Victorian Football League, the Australian Football League, was the Victorian Football Association. And in 1896, I hate to say it, this means nothing to Colin and Jamie, but fucking Collingwood won it that year, so screw them. So they're the Dallas Cowboys of the AFL, Jamie. They're the Toronto Maple Leafs, basically, the
Winnipeg Victorias.
Yes. Basically, to go along with that side of things there. And just a couple of notes, we're fascinated apparently by 1896. Key things that happened in 1896 that are important to know. X-rays were introduced for the very first time. So if you get an X-ray recently, thanks 1896, that was when it became a thing. Utah became the 45th state of the United States of America, Jamie. Have you been to Utah? Do we like Utah? Salt Lake City? What a city. Oh, you're muted, Boomer. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
I went to Utah once.
Utah's beautiful. Salt Lake City's a great city. I'm still annoyed with myself that I didn't make it there for the Winter Olympics, but
I agree. I actually have been to Salt Lake and I do love it. Great city. The Klondike Gold Rush in Canada. Colin, do we know much about the Klondike Gold Rush at all?
Oh, a lot of like educational stuff you learn in schools when you're a kid. I always thought it was 1894 for some reason. So, I mean, we're correcting me on the show.
No, well, ChatGPT could be wrong. Don't tell me I'm right. Like, I mean, come on, I was lazy in this one. As I said, the VFL was established in Australia. That would go on to become quite big in this country. Famous births. George Burns was born in that year. F. Scott Fitzgerald, who I went on a bit of a Great Gatsby little thing earlier this year. So, without him being born, we wouldn't have the Great Gatsby. And I've tracked down two.
He's from St. Paul, Minnesota, home of birthplace of Sunisia Lee and Herb Brooks, coach of the Miracle on Ice hockey team.
And as I learned when I was in Minneapolis, I know it's not the same city, but it's next door this year, that's the home of Peanuts, Snoopy. Because they
have a museum there now, I think. Yeah, well, my kids would flip.
My friend lived near. Well, you met my friend Anthony when you came to Minneapolis to meet me, and obviously the home of Prince, basically, because my friend at that point lived near where Prince died. But now he lives near the newspaper office, and outside they had all these like statues of like Snoopy and Charlie Brown. Like, what's going on here? And I googled it, and that newspaper was where Schultz wrote the first comics for Peanuts. So anyway, there you go. Random things you learn on the show. We're not here to talk about that. Two Olympians born that I found. They were born in 1896. The great Edwin Flack, a Swedish track and field athlete who won a silver and 4 bronzes across the 1920, 24, and 28 Olympics. And the great Dutch equestrian rider, Charles Paul de Mortanges, 4 gold and a silver across 1924, 1928, and 1932. So there you go. There's some famous people born that year. Let's get to the Olympic stuff. We've obviously gone over why Athens was chosen. We did that. That was held April 6 to 15 in 1896. Funnily enough, in Athens, Greece. 14 countries took part in these Olympics. One of them wasn't Canada. Colin, why wasn't Canada? Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much history you did, but I thought Canada had been to basically all but a couple. But no, Canada in 1896. You don't even need to be here. You've got the week off. You can bugger off now. We got nothing else to talk about now.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of details. The only stories that even I think the Team Canada website has is that there wasn't an organizing committee at that point, which
Australia when we talk about either, just to say, so we didn't.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to say. When we talk about some of these events, it's like that didn't hold back other countries. I mean, also, I think we've discovered that even with America, there was a lot of recruiting and scouting that was going on. So maybe there wasn't as much for Canada. But nothing really came together until after these Olympics. So I think this is the only one that Canada didn't take part in.
I'm not going to go over every country, every single one of these episodes. Trust me, when we get to like Paris, I'm not going over 200 countries. But the 14 countries that did take part: Greece, Germany, USA, France, Britain, Hungary, Austria, Denmark, Switzerland, Australia, Italy, Chile, Sweden, and Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Australia is still a technicality there because, again, we weren't a country really at that point. Edwin Flack, our only athlete, who basically went on to become one of the most successful athletes of these games, he essentially was living in Britain and basically almost did it as an FU to England. And Australia was just sports mad. We just didn't really have a national identity. But, he still is considered, and I'll talk about him when it comes to one of his medals that was very much later on recognized as an Olympic medal. There's elements of that where basically we count it as our medals, even though I guess technically the UK probably could because, colonization and all that fun stuff that existed in that part of the world. There were 241 athletes at these Olympics, all of them men. This was the period where women weren't allowed in any sporting events and everything along those lines. Obviously, there's a lot of, reasons why we don't need to go into all that. We know we were dicks back then. Women should have been allowed to compete, but it's 1896. If you're sexist and you're listening to this show, go back to 1896. You would have loved it then. 43 events across 9 sports. Now, the fun fact is there were meant to be more sports. There was actually meant to be 4 additional sports at these Olympics. 2 of them were cancelled because of the weather. Rowing and sailing were meant to happen at these Olympics, cancelled. Cricket and soccer were also meant to be at these Olympics, but they couldn't find enough participants. Basically, they were just like, yeah, all right, not enough people. Let's cancel them from the schedule there. Can you imagine that? Like, Jamie, come LA. we actually don't have enough cricket players. Let's scrap the cricket competition. I mean, you could never imagine that happening now, could you?
No, I mean, well, I'm worried about what's going to happen in LA for a lot of reasons, but I feel like we'll be able to scratch together a cricket team.
Apparently, there's only going to be 6 nations anyway, so what's the point? But basically, again, I'm not going to do this every single Olympics, so we do this because we'll be here forever, but we had athletics, we had cycling, we had fencing, gymnastics, shooting, swimming, tennis, weightlifting, and wrestling were the sports at these Olympic Games in 1896. We want to go over things like branding and posters and logos and medals and things like that. Obviously, it's a little bit different in this period of the Olympics, but the key factor, of course, is that there were no gold, silver medals awarded at the very first Olympic Games. The winners actually got a silver medal, an olive branch, and a diploma. Imagine that. You win the Olympics, here's a diploma. There you go, Simone Biles, have a diploma. Like, why not? And the runners-up actually got a copper medal, a laurel branch, and a diploma as well. So third place didn't get anything. But retroactively, the IOC has gone back and essentially created this medal table where gold, silver, bronze. So it's one of these things where historically they've done it. We'll get to 1906, obviously, at one point where a lot of people argue that should be included in the medal tally, things like that. But, things that obviously technically weren't done at the time, but we talk about it there as well. Venues, I'm going to get back to the mascot because I feel like we'll leave that one last here because this is a bit of fun we're going to do with this mascot bit. 7 different venues we use across the games, spread out around Greece. Obviously, the one of the best ones to know, of course, is the town of Marathon, where the famous marathon story came about. Started the marathon, which is obviously quite a poignant little moment there. We had the Bay of Zay hosting the swimming. Fencing was at Zapion, sports shooting at Kallithea, and the Athens Lawn Tennis Club hosted the tennis. Even though it's, according to Wikipedia, tennis was a sport unfamiliar to Greeks at the time of the 1896 Olympics. So there you go. Fun fact for that one. And one thing I wanted to mention here now, again, if I'm judging on what I'm reading here in terms of terms and everything along those lines, the IOC president changed during these Olympics. If I'm getting my dates correct in terms of what I'm seeing here. So at the beginning of the Olympics, Dimitrios Vikalis was the president of the IOC, and halfway through, Pierre de Coubertin was the president of the IOC. So again, imagine in LA, Kirsty rocks up. How you going? Yep, I'm president. Halfway through, I don't want to do this anymore. Lord Sebastian Coe, in you come. Like, don't know about that happening, but interesting that happened. Yeah, go.
I was going to say, so I tried to find this, and again, it's all very sounded like Canadian prime ministers. It's like, what was going on here?
Your microphone, by the way, just to point out, you might want to move in there. There you go. And you've disconnected it. Now I don't know what you're doing. We're doing very well on this episode between microphones not working and no, you're gone, Colin. You've disconnected it somehow. You pulled a plug. I don't know what you've done. No, can't hear you. Welcome to Off The Podium. We win awards. This is why
he's gone.
He's gone.
All right. See, you made fun of him too much about Canada not being at the Olympics, and he's just giving up.
He literally took the bait of like, I don't need to be here. Oh, oops! I've disconnected the microphone. I better go along that way. I don't know. I'm throwing this over to you, Jamie. I'm sure you sit around when you dream about Athens 1896 about them changing a president halfway through. But I mean, it's an interesting fact to think about. That could ever happen again. These are the things we're always going to bring up. Imagine if that happened today. The IOC president changed halfway through the Olympics, right? I
wonder if that had something to do with, I don't know, some organizational thing. Like Pierre was out.
You suck, Dimitrios. Piss off.
Yeah, or that, or like, Coubertin was doing, I don't know, PR, and Dimitrios was like actually organizing things. I don't know.
Maybe. Colin, I think you're back.
I think I'm back. Yeah. So from what I could tell, I mean, based on the dates, what was the closing date of these games?
15th of
okay,
April.
So I had read that he left after it, but yeah, the dates might be wrong because I think the idea was that Dimitrios Vikalis basically stepped down because like, well, I was shepherding these games because it's my country, but I'm not going to be doing anything going forward. But I mean, really, ultimately, I don't know whether Vikalis really held as much position or as much sway as de Coubertin did in the first place. I mean, they kind of were his games, but it's possible the dates could be wrong. I can't see him like 5 days before it's over being like, nah, I'm done with this.
The list in Wikipedia has it that he left office on the 10th of April, which was halfway through the games. And then de Coubertin took over. So, yeah, it's. I mean, look, we apologize that our history hasn't delved into that much there. But, I mean, it's interesting just looking at this. I love reading these lists on Wikipedia to the fact that Demetrius was president for 1 year, 287 days. Pierre de Coubertin, 29 years, 48 days, longest serving IOC president. Scroll down to the list. Kirsty Coventry has been president for 16 days at the time of recording this. So, there you go. Very, very interesting there. The one, obviously, this is a part 2 where we generally talk about things like video games or official songs, things like that, movies. I mean, we had the mini series, obviously, as we've talked about a few times, the first Olympics. Did either of you guys go over and watch that again? I think, Jamie, you said you watched it many, many years ago, but Colin,
I watched it a couple months ago.
I could not bring myself to watch it again after I watched a clip on
it wasn't that bad.
On YouTube.
I think I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. I was like, it was just harmless fun. I don't know about you, Colin. It was. Yeah, wasn't too bad.
It was one of these things where I'm like, you got a 2-part miniseries. It should have been 1 2-hour movie. Yeah. It wasn't. There were some hilarious moments. Like I know I shared the video of like the hurdlers practicing and the one with "Look at me go, woo!" Like there's some pretty bad moments in there, but I mean they had a cool cliffhanger, which I guess the big story that they had from the part 1 to part 2, but. It's okay. It's too long.
I wanted David Caruso to be putting on his glasses and like, I'm going to win the gold medal. Yeah! And then just, pull into some The Who, essentially. But it's on YouTube. If people want to watch it, it's like the full 2-part miniseries is on YouTube. It's literally called The First Olympics. It was Jamie, I think from memory, you said it was done in the lead up to the LA Games in 84.
That's how I remember it. I can't imagine when else they would have done it.
It's fascinating. Angela Lansbury was what's his face from Octopussy? Yeah, there's a few people in it, so there you go. But now this is the part that's always going to be fun. We generally will talk about the mascot. We'll give our thoughts on the mascot. We didn't have mascots for the 60s, so for the next how many of these, we're having fun. Jamie, I think it was, came up with the idea that we're going to use our friend ChatGPT to come up with an Olympic mascot. We're each going to come up with one, and then essentially we're going to vote for what the best one would be. And we're even going to do this retroactively for all the Olympics where there actually were mascots to see if maybe there's going to be a better one. So, Colin, you were lazy. You didn't do it. So you were Canada of 1896. You just didn't show up. So thanks for that.
I'm only doing this when Canada shows up, okay? That's the rules.
Maybe you can.
I didn't make it. Mackenzie Bowell made the rules.
You can be the sole judge then, potentially, of this one. So I'm going to start with you, Jamie. What did ChatGPT come up for your mascot for the 1896 Olympics?
Just you want me to show my phone?
Show it on the phone, and for our video viewers, we'll be able to see it as well. Oh, what have we got?
All right, that is Serbi.
Oh, that's amazing. Automatically, I'm giving you the win. That's better than mine. That's incredible.
That guards the underworlds, and that's Sidious, Altius, and Fortius.
That's Scooby-Doo, the 3-headed monster.
For people who are listening on our audio right now, go to our video version because we're going to have this side by side. And if you're watching this, you'll see it side by side. I don't even want to show mine now. That puts mine to shame. That's brilliant.
No, I want to see yours, Dan.
I was glad to say that you soccer was a planned sport. I didn't know that because yesterday I looked at it and I'm like, oh, son of a, I have him there with a soccer ball, and they didn't even have soccer in 1896.
Oh,
they tried.
If that dog showed up, they would have had enough participants. Got 3 bloody heads. I'd like to introduce you to a young olive green owl named Philos. How shit's that compared to a 3-headed dog?
Well, it looks like what they might have done in 1896.
Yeah, yours at least has the vintage look to it.
I mean, ChatGPT's given me, I got a few like dot points. So it's a young olive green owl named Philos, Greek for friend, symbolizing wisdom, heritage, and watchfulness. Dressed in a simple chiton, ancient Greek tunic, maybe with a laurel wreath, holding a torch to represent Olympic spirit being reignited, perched beside the Parthenon, or standing on a stylized version of Panathetic Stadium with big expressive eyes and a look of curiosity and excitement. I mean, look, I'm triple-headed dog. Come on.
Your description's much better than mine.
Yeah, but you've got a triple-headed dog, man. Like that wins life. Yeah. Like, I mean, that could be better than Izzy. I want a triple-headed dog.
I think we should have a scoreboard.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, you got 10 for Ghidorah, the 3-headed Scooby-Doo, and you got 3 for Ben's owl.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, an owl. I mean, honestly, as we're going to get to some of these, it just repeats itself. ChatGPT is just lazy, like me. I want a 3-headed dog. Like,
just real life 3-headed dog.
Oh, man, seriously, that wins. All right, let's get to the juicy parts now, where we're basically going to go over elements, athletes, main stories. Now, the 3 big moments that I've got here. Now, again, I don't know if this is a part where we haven't really established is what I've written on the notes is, are these the 3 moments? You guys might have some different ones that I haven't left out, and maybe do we vote for these? I don't know. We're learning as we go along. But again, Lazy Ben, ChatGPT, 3 big moments that it has said of these Olympics, the key moments of these Olympic Games, the revival of the Olympic Games, that after centuries, the Olympic Games are resurrected, symbolizing international unity and athletic excellence. The Spiridon Louis Spiridon marathon victory. We're going to talk a little bit about him, obviously, in this section. He was a Greek water carrier. Spiridon Louis became a national hero when he won the marathon. Obviously, it was inspired by the historical story of the runner from the war once the Persians were invading in the town of Marathon, died on his way to tell, of course, the story of the Greeks' victory. And essentially, as we're going to learn a little bit more about him when we come to the athletes and everything, he was the only Greek gold medalist. That was the last day essentially to do this, and Greece of the 300-400 athletes, they basically sent the majority of them. So 241 athletes, Ben. Come on, you read that out before. So big story there. And the very first ever Olympic gold medalist, somebody who we'll talk about in a second too, James Connolly, David Caruso himself. He won the hop, skip, and jump, or as we know, the triple jump. Not only USA's first ever Olympic gold medal, but the first ever Olympic gold medal in general. So they're the big 3 moments that I've gotten here. But I mean, if you guys have anything else there to add, counter, this is where we're going to learn and come together as a team for the next 30, 40 of these episodes, and we're going to work this out as we go along.
As per usual, in American fashion, I made it about America. That's what I thought we were doing. I thought we were picking our 3 from our country. I had, of course, James Connolly.
Sorry, Jamie, I'm going to interrupt. As soon as you said that, you are correct. That is what we were meant to do. But again, I was lazy. So I will let me just scrap everything that I just said. And the only bloody thing I've got to say, Edwin Flack. He was our only athlete. He won 3 medals. Simple. Edwin Flack.
Has any country ever batted 1,000 at the Olympics? I don't think so. Has any, that has to be the only time, the first and last time that ever happened.
This is why Edwin Flack is a GOAT. He's so good. Colin's got nothing to say in this. You own this. This will be another 20-minute segment with USA. We're so good.
I had James Connolly. He was a Harvard student, and when asked to be allowed to miss the end of the semester, they're like, no, you got to quit school and reapply. So, and he kept a journal of his trip in Athens, and he wrote, "The thought next came to me that our national hymn was for my winning my event, and I said to myself, you're the first Olympic victor in 1,500 years." Pretty cool.
Yeah. That's why I got the gig on CSI Miami. That's how cool he was.
Exactly. Thomas Burke doubled in the 100-meter and the 400-meter. I'm pretty confident, at least for men, that is the first and last time that double ever occurred. And Robert Garrett set a world record in the discus. You know, this is the Olympics with the most Olympic records set.
Is it really? I mean, there was only 2 events. I wonder.
Well, everything was an Olympic record.
Oh, there we go. There's the joke of the day.
Although, it's funny, if you look up the results, it's funny that when you see Olympic records that don't get broken in the finals, you're like, oh, that got broken in the heat somewhere. That's disappointing. Yeah.
Everyone just didn't show up basically on the day.
Yeah, Robert Garrett set a world record in the discus, and I guess it was more of a big deal because that was like the famous statue, the Greek statue of the guy throwing the discus. It was like a given that the Greeks were going to win the discus, and that didn't happen.
They were the thing you read about this was that the Greece were let's be honest, Greece were the America of 1896. They were cocky, they were brash, they were like, we got this, we're going to kick ass. They only ended up winning a gold, 3 silver, and 6 bronze. And I think from of the 240 odd athletes, I think 150 of them were Greek. Like it was just, it was ridiculously stacked. 169 of them were Greek.
And they do win the overall medals, I think, right?
The Ben Waterworth tally, yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
But the Jamie Liker category, no, they don't. They One. Hang on. One. I'm looking at the athletics table. You're correct. 10 gold. They did win. Sorry. 1 goal was in athletics. Ben is reading the wrong table. Sorry, Jamie. Keep going.
No, those are my 3.
Oh, that was it.
James Connolly, Thomas Burke, Robert Garrett. So I'll throw it over to Colin. Who do you have from Canada?
I got nobody from Canada.
Mr. Bow.
I do want to. So just to clarify, we're going over both the stars and the moments, right?
So hang on. I think to clarify, let's. I think we need to back up because Jamie's correct, but I also do think that we do need to go over 3 big moments. So like for example, like when we get to Munich, we're going to know what a big moment was of those Olympics. When we get to Atlanta, we get to 1936. So we will have this section where we're going to go over, and maybe like we can just come up with the 3 key storylines of the games that maybe aren't necessarily athletic, So I'll back that up. But Jamie's also correct because I think maybe we do then focus on 3 individual nations storylines, which again don't necessarily mean always to be the medal winners. So like, for example, if we get to a Winter Olympics, Australia in the early days, I'm not going to, I'm going to have a great result that we got 30th, you know what I mean? So things like that. So, Colin, sorry, go ahead.
I think the 3 big moments that you mentioned, I think are the important ones. Obviously, like the formation of the games is the big story, the marathon victory. And also let's just talk for a second about the marathon itself and why it gets its name, because whether this date back to like somebody who basically was a messenger that was carrying news or trying to recruit troops from Sparta. They had to like run 40 kilometers to basically deliver the news. And then they ran 40 kilometers back and they essentially died at the end of that run. So this is where the name marathon gets its name. And obviously, important for Greece in that one. The only one I'm going to say, and I like the first Olympic medal. I think that's the most important one. But we should also at least note that the very first event was won by Francis Lane, which was one of the heats for the 100 meter. He would go on to win the bronze medal. So we highlight that this was the first medal ever awarded, the first event as well.
Good point.
I think for the big 3, those are the big ones. I think the marathon, the Olympics happen themselves. We could also add, we want to talk about how there's no official song. I mean, the Olympic anthem was sung during the opening ceremonies, even though it wasn't used again. I don't think it became official until like the 50s or the 60s. But that Olympic anthem we hear to this day was there. So, I mean, that would be a big moment, at least for the ceremony as well.
Yeah, and we'll highlight, obviously, in these sections because, I mentioned, say, like, there were no gold medals given out, things like that. Ultimately, we're going to get to our first, cauldron lighting, our first use of the flag, things like that we staples today. So going back to it, Greece is the staple, this is the Olympics. Obviously, there are so many other things that we think of the Olympics of that. So, we'll get to these things. We're obviously, trying to do that along the way. So this bit actually, so the main starts. So this is obviously where we'll go over our individual countries. So Jamie, you've obviously done that section. Mine didn't take long. Colin's doesn't take long at all. But the ones that I think was also important to highlight are 3 stars that necessarily aren't of our countries as well. And some of our athletes may fit into this. But according to ChatGPT and according to some other research, the 3 biggest stars of these Olympics, not necessarily the medal, because we'll go over the who were the biggest medal winners in a separate section. So we have Karl Schulman of Germany. Now, this guy is like iconic because we'll talk about him more soon. He got 4 gold medals, 3 of them in gymnastics, 1 of them in wrestling, and he also got 4th in weightlifting. So he got top 4 in 3 different events at an Olympic Games. I love Esther Ledecker.
3 different sports.
3 different sports.
Not 3 different, not events, 3 sports.
Thank you for correcting me there. You're correct. I love Esther Ledecker for winning 2 medals at the same Olympics in 2 different sports. He's got, 3 sports. Ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. Paul Masson of France dominated cycling. He got 3 golds. And Alfred Hajos, swimming events, 2 of them to be precise. One thing I actually want to go to, like with some of the events as well, and I'll maybe pinpoint some of the more unique ones that we have, because this is always a fun part of the old Olympics where you have these very unique events. The 200 meters was meant to take place in the track and field, but was cancelled because they deemed the bend to be too tight, so they could not do it properly. So there was meant to be a 200 meter race at the Olympics, but the athletes complained that the bend was too tight. Edwin Flack was one of them, by the way. So there you go. Speaking of Edwin Flack, this is just the episode where I get to talk about Edwin Flack. So the highlight, Edwin Flack, he's our only athlete at the games, wins 2 gold and a bronze. And I just want to point out some facts about Edwin. He was living in London, basically. He comes from a meat packer family in Melbourne. You talk about keeping journals and things like that, Jamie, back when you're talking about James Connolly. Apparently, because Edwin Flack was an accountant, so he had an accountant mind where he basically just wrote everything in a journal. And in 1960, this was like 20 odd years after he had died, somebody was clearing out an old desk, an old family desk in the Flack family, and they discovered all his journals. And it was apparently just the most amazing reading. He would write everything from times to this, that, and everything else. He kept like methodical diaries of his boat trip over to Athens and all these things. And like my jokes at the beginning were like not jokes. He literally was like fascinated by the idea of the Olympics and was essentially writing like, I'm going to go and watch. Maybe I'll compete. I don't know. He was a decent runner and then essentially rocked up and competed. He won gold in the 800 meters, the 1500 meters. He also won a bronze in tennis. And I'll share the fun story about tennis in a moment. But he also competed in the marathon, led it basically for the whole thing and then dropped out of it 6 kilometers from the end. But when it came to tennis, he ran the heats of the 800 meters in the morning and was like, yeah, let's go do some tennis. So he basically buggered off with a British friend. They got eliminated in the singles. They weren't very good because they apparently weren't very good at tennis. They were just like, oh, we'll just give it a crack. The doubles show up and there was about 12 athletes in the doubles in tennis. So they essentially had to do a draw where there were buys involved, and Edwin Flack and his mate, who again had run the 800 meters that morning, let's remember that, showed up and they got given a bye and were given a direct path into the semi-finals. They got soundly beaten by the Greek pair. But then they were meant to play another match for a bronze. The Greek pair didn't show up. So then they were basically retrospectively awarded third place. They played one match at the Olympics, got that. The AOC did not recognize this as an Olympic medal until 2008 when they finally were like, yeah, all right, Edwin Flack won a bronze medal to go with his 2 gold medals. So Edwin Flack, the man, the myth, the legend, ran 800-meter heats in the morning. I bet they did go on to win gold at. And was basically like, fucking 3 o'clock, let's go play some tennis. Ends up winning a bronze medal in the damn event, which again wasn't historically recognized for over 100 years, but whatever. I mean, this is just insane. I just want Simone Biles in LA to be like, fuck, I've done my beam this morning. Oh, sailing's on. I might just jump on a boat. I
think we should add that to the rundown. The Edwin Flack Award for every Olympics we do.
Yep.
What athlete we'd like to go see try what other sport that they've never played before.
I like that. That's a great idea, Jamie. I mean, we're going to see this with so many of these early Olympics where athletes are winning events in multiple medals. I mean, I talked about Carl Schulman. We'll talk about him more in a sec. But I mean, for those, I mean, you two might not be overly familiar. Edwin Flack is a name synonymous in Australia. Most people have heard his name. They know he's our first ever Olympic medalist. There is a street, I mean, a lot of streets around the Olympic Stadium in Sydney in the Homebush area are named after our great Olympians. There is an Edwin Flack, I think it's Flack Avenue from memory. And I've just discovered in the lead up to this, I've now moved to Melbourne. There is, at the Melbourne Grammar School, there is an Edwin Flack Oval named after him where there is an Edwin Flack statue. And it's about, I think, 40 minutes from where I live. That is now on my bucket list to go out and see the Edwin Flack statue. But just an icon. An icon. The first, our only athlete, as you said, Jamie, batting 1,000 right there. One athlete. And he comes home with 2 gold and a bronze in 2 different sports. You can't write that shit. I'm already saying right now, later on at the end of this episode, when we talk about who should get a movie made out, where's the Edwin Flack movie? Come on. This guy, I want an Edwin Flack t-shirt. Keep talking, Jamie, on America. I'm gonna find a photo of this statue so you guys can see the beautiful man that he is.
If we wait long enough, they'll probably award him another medal in something else. Who knows?
There he is. Look at him. That's a statue.
Flack.
What a man. Flack the Trailblazer. This is a great book, by the way, from Athens with Pride. Harry Gordon, great Australian Olympic historian there. Get it if you find it. But yeah, I'm done with Australia. That's it, Edwin Flack. That's all I can talk about, Jamie. You talked about yours before. I don't know if you got any ones to add on the highlights outside of the athletes or anything.
Just to note that we were talking about first, we also have our first cheater at the original Olympic
Is this the
Games.
cart guy in the marathon?
Yeah, another Spiridon. I mean, who won the game? I think like the name Spiridon.
Yeah,
because you got Spiridon Lewis. The guy that wrote the national hymn is named Spiridon. And then you've got Spiridon Belokos. who finished third, but then the guy who finished fourth, Gyula Kellner, lodged a protest claiming that Bellicos had covered part of the course by a carriage after having supposedly dropped out of the race. Protest was upheld. Bellicos was disqualified.
That's a movie. I mean, that's
I was
brilliant.
just going to say, I want to know the movie of what happened to this guy. And then some sort of redemption at the end. Like, he fought in World War I and became a hero. Like,
again, it's like let's think about where we're at in the Olympics right now. Ray gun. Love you, Rachel. But I mean, that you come out of Paris, that's the talking point. Ray gun, oh, this is this, that, and everything else. I want the marathon bronze medalist. I don't know who it was in Paris, but I want to find out that they literally cheated and that they jumped in a carriage. Wasn't there somebody in the 80s? Was it the Boston Marathon famously like caught the subway or something like that? Was that
1980. Yeah, the last year that Bill Rogers won it. Rosie Ruiz took the subway.
There you go. Like, I mean, you just can't write this stuff. But I love the fact that you literally have to have a guy who's like, no, he cheated. No, I didn't. He did. No, I did. And then, all right, that's fair enough. Like, I mean, is he just like, how do you get away with that? It's 1896. There's no TV cameras. He just like gets along, jumps in a thing, and then, I want him to get his medal back. Can we re-award this? Can we get on the phone to Kirsty? I'm like, no. He deserves a medal just for trying, right?
No, because only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 7 more people need to get disqualified, and then Edwin Flack gets a medal in marathon.
I mean, look, he led for most of it. I mean, that's probably the only time in Olympic history an Australian's led a marathon. So, I mean, there you go. But that's brilliant. That story is just so amazing. Just incredible. Colin, I mean, Canada didn't have anything, so you weren't really add here, but anyway.
Well, I want to add something on another nation here, and it may have been mentioned when I was untangling myself and my microphone, everything was acting up, but the star in tennis, and I'm going to say this might be one of the best stories I've heard in any Olympics ever, and perfectly sums up the fly by the seat of your pants of these Olympics. The gold medalist in tennis, John Pius Boland. So he had no intention of entering this. He just happened to be on vacation in Athens when the games were being held. And he was staying with his friend who was one of the organizers of the tennis events. Because tennis wasn't being attended by a lot of people, he just said, you should enter this. But John Pius Boland didn't enter himself. His friend entered Boland in the event. And then Boland goes on to win the gold medal. Boland then enters in the doubles with the German that he beat, I believe, in one of the earlier rounds, and then wins the doubles. So this guy literally shows up on vacation, is staying with his friend. He's like, I'm really in trouble at work. We can't get anybody to sign up for the tennis. Would you want to sign up? I don't know. I'll think about it. His friend goes, John Pius Boland. By the way, you're in the tennis tomorrow. Gold medal. Doubles, you need a partner. Pick that guy from the other country that you just beat. Gold medal.
Because this is mixed team. Like, this was, if you look at the medal table, you have mixed medals. Because John Paul,
and it only happened for the first couple games, I think.
Yeah, because
it was only allowed, I guess.
Edwin Flack's bronze was run with British player by the name of George S. Robertson. So I mean, it's just unique, these stories, though, isn't it? These are just so many things that are so fascinating about it. And I do love the fact that when you look at the doubles, that a gold medal won by a mixed team of a Brit and a German. A bronze won by an Australian and a Brit. And the poor Greeks, who are the only country basically to show 2 players of the same country, win the silver. Couple of things actually just on the events. Some of the more unique events that we had at these Olympics. Cycling had a 12-hour race. Can you imagine?
And how many people finished that? Did you see?
I 2 people, because there was no third awarded there, right? So, like, I mean, just imagine the TV coverage of a 12-hour race now, that if we had that. The swimming, you had the 100 meters freestyle, the 500-meter freestyle, because why not? The 1,200-meter freestyle, and then the 100-meter freestyle only for sailors. They're like, no, you're a sailor, you get your separate race. Like, I want that to be a thing now. 100 meters by the rate they're adding medals to swimming right now, we are going to have, like, by Brisbane 2032, 100 meters for accountants, 100 meters for podcasters, 100 meters for whatever the fuck Colin does. Like,
did they do it for architects?
Architects, all that sort of stuff. And my favorite, though, is still, like, I love the traditional, like, weightlifting. When we get to diving eventually, some of the categories have. The weightlifting was the one-hand lift and the two-hand lift. Why not? Keep it simple. Bring it back.
I just want to add, sorry to cut off here, but I wanted to add on weightlifting because this is a fun story. Launceston Elliott.
Don't say that name. Shit city in Hobart, Tasmania.
But he had come in silver, I guess, in the clean and jerk, so the main category. But first of all, if you go on Wikipedia, the picture of him has the biggest bulge you have ever seen. And apparently this guy was like the shirtless Samoan of his age. Like, this was the guy that everybody was obsessed with just because of his appearance. And he lost because it was a tie in the first event. And ultimately came down to is the judges said, well, we liked the other guy's style more, so they awarded him. They lodged a protest because they said, we weren't made aware of this tie-breaking rule. He then comes back and says, fine, I'm going to win the one-handed lift. And like, this guy was the original king of, like, what's the word we use? Swagger, the Usain Bolt confidence, you know?
Colin, I think the kids are calling
Riz is the word you're looking for, Colin.
I was going to say BDE. Big dick energy. This guy's packing.
He is. And I wonder why there was such an obsession with this man during 1896.
And people thought people were conservative in 1896. Damn. That man can lift a lot of things with a lot of appendages, apparently, at that point.
It didn't even need to be one hand for him for the lift.
Apparently he died in Australia. So there you go.
Oh, you got another Australian you can claim.
Died in Melbourne, Australia. Rest in peace, Launceston Elliott. The only time I'm ever going to talk positive about. Seriously, like, if I could lift weights and have a dick that big, call me whatever. I don't care. Only half of that's true for me. You take your pick with that. I do actually like the one hand and the two hand lift. So gold in the one hand lift, Launceston Elliott. Silver, Viggo Jensen. Gold in the two-hand lift, Viggo Jensen. He's from Denmark, by the way. Silver, Launceston Elliott. And Greece, poor Greece, 2 bronzes. Not having a good Olympics at the Home Olympics, even though they're second on the medal table there. Other things in this section that we like to go over, I think, are underdog stories. So kind of like your Ray Guns, your Eddie the Eagles, moments like that. But my ChatGPT answer, again, Ben Lazy, they gave it to Spiridon Lewis. His marathon victory. He was in the army, if I'm not mistaken. And again, it was like Greece obviously won 10 gold medals at the Olympics, but track and field was where it was at. This is where they were very cocky. They thought they were going to win everything. And it was the last day. They were sort of, national shame. They hadn't won anything. But then Spiridon comes in and wins this. And to the day he died, he was just an absolute icon of Greece. And I think to this day, he's considered one of Greece's like greatest ever national heroes. So, and he's in the mini series. If you watch it, they have like a big feature on him. Edwin Flack, by the way, is in that mini feature as well. Australian accents are Simpsons levels of terrible, but still, it's.
I was gonna call it a Chaz, was it?
B-E-E. But yeah, Spiridon Lewis. A movie could be made. Probably is in Greece. I don't know. The Spiridon Lewis mini series, but. I don't know if either of you gentlemen had any other underdog stories that are outside of Spiridon Lewis. That's Launceston Elliott, basically.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to give it to Cooperton, I think it's Spiridon all the way. I mean, he wins an event that got made up for the Olympics and became, culturally relevant around the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
No, besides Phidippides, the Greek guy that died after, he was the most famous marathoner in the world for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I could add Boland in there, but I think the difference is we don't really know because they didn't have top tennis players there. We don't know, whether Boland was an underdog or if he could have come in as the top draw. Just to add to the fact that like how big this was because Greece had just been losing and losing and losing for them to take this event that they weren't necessarily the favorites in. And then I don't know if either of you saw the same thing that like this was such a heroic moment that like Prince George, like the crown prince of Greece, crossed the finish line with him. Something would never be allowed today, but they're like, we're about to win this. And then the crown prince gets up there.
Trump's
and he's like,
doing
I'm running
it.
across
Trump's
the finish
doing
line.
it in a couple of years. You wait.
Actually, this Prince George, though, he had another incident because I think it was during the weightlifting where one of the volunteers was trying to switch the weights out and was struggling with it. So Prince George just decides to go up there and showboat by taking the weight off himself and tossing it. So this Prince George was basically, he was grandstanding at the Olympics, but that it does show what a big moment that is if the prince is going to go out and cross the finish line with you.
I loved in the mini series where basically correct me here, Jamie, on his name, the American shot putter and discus thrower, basically.
Garrett.
Yeah, he comes up
Robert
to
Garrett.
do it. He's brought his own shot put, which is this giant fucking thing. And then basically the organizer's like, no, you must use the one that is, the official shot put. And he's like, that's unfair, I tell you. I've been training with this one. And they hand him one that's like half the size. And he's like, oh, yeah, all right, this will do. And then basically Plopsley goes on. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. If that is true, that's fucking fantastic. But the one of the guys I loved in that too is they show like a podium of like the top three, which obviously, wasn't real because there wasn't a top three awarded. But they show the national anthems being played. And they play, Star Spangled Banner. And then essentially it gets to the point at the end of it where the guy who's like the conductor of the band is so sick of playing it that he's just like rolling his eyes. I'm like, perfect summary of how most non-Americans feel watching the Olympics. So, there's that song again, essentially. Although they did show correctly that Australia, we weren't a country, so they played God Save the Queen or King, whoever was in control back then. We also, on this point, are going to try and do a story you did not know. And the one that I found here was that obviously we know women weren't allowed to compete in 1896. Women would compete in the next Olympics in 1900, of course. But a Greek woman by the name of Stamata Revithi ran the marathon course the day after the official race to highlight gender disparity in sports, which I found quite fascinating. There you go, women power, all that sort of stuff. And I think that the miniseries actually kind of had that poignant little, it felt very 2025 to be fair, where like the American guy who, I can't remember his name, he went on to be in the IOC and he couldn't go to the games. He was one of the founders to help America go to the Olympics. He's there, and as he's like celebrating the achievements of all the Americans, a lady like stands up and it's like, oh, and let the women into the Olympics. And he's like, I tell you, if I'm on the IOC, I promise that women should be allowed to compete. I was like, yeah, and they do like the afterthoughts of like, women weren't allowed to compete until like 1920, whatever. And I'm like, well, they were in 1900, but we'll get to that obviously in 4 years' time. I don't know if any of you gentlemen had any other stories you may not know in this section at all, or?
No, progressive thinking you are. So I knew that was the story you were going to pick. So I tried to find something, but there were two brothers in shooting, John and Sumner Payne. Is that the one?
Yeah.
John and Sumner Payne. They took gold and silver in the 25 millimeter military pistol competition because they had superior firearms, Colt firearms. Shout out to Hartford, Connecticut, home of Colt firearms. But 5 years later, in 1901, Sumner Payne went home to find his wife in bed with his daughter's music teacher. He drew his sidearm and fired 4 shots, missing each time. He was briefly jailed and charged with assault until police realized who he was and accepted that he must have missed on purpose. He was then released.
There's a movie? Wow.
The original Turkish shooter here.
And his name's Sumner. That's a cool name. Like Sumner.
And just to add to the fact, I mean, John and Sumner Payne, they officially become the first ever siblings to medal on a podium together. And of course, Sumner would go on to win 2 events in this Olympics as well. But yeah, crazy story for those brothers.
They were also, I think they were whatever one where you had to, how fast you could shoot while muzzle loading. I think they had like a speed shooting, but you had to load the muzzle every time. They got disqualified for that because their guns weren't the right caliber.
Yeah. Crazy.
So
this is what's so great about learning about the old Olympics. It's just things like that, again, today just sounds so silly, so foreign. I mean, we get to St. Louis. I mean, that's going to be a fun episode, but like, it's back then it was just obviously just something that was a thing, and it's all right, cool, let's do it, whatever. That works. I'm going to name my son Sumner if I ever have a child. Probably not.
Sumner Waterworth. That is a great name.
It really is. That kid's gone.
Sumner Waterworth. That's the type of name that gets you elected prime minister one day.
Sumner Waterworth is a movie star. Sumner Waterworth in Terminator 23. This time it will be good. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Results. Things like that we've obviously covered a lot of, but the 5 most medals in terms of athletes who won the 5 most medals. Now, look, I was lazy in the lead up to this. ChatGPT helped me, but ChatGPT was wrong because it kept like coming up with names. I'm like, dude, you missed this person. This person clearly won like 6 medals, all this sort of stuff. So by all means, gentlemen, if I've got 5 here that are wrong and I've missed anyone, I've tried to correct this as best as I can. By all means, if you've got a different list, let me know. So the most medals won at Athens 1896 was a German by the name of Hermann Weingartner in gymnastics. He won 3 gold, 2 silver, and a bronze, followed by his countryman, the great Karl Schumann, who, as we've already mentioned, 4 medals, 3 golds, and a bronze. He did it in gymnastics and wrestling and 4th in weightlifting. Like, just insane that this guy did it in 3 different sports. Robert Garrett, 4 medals, 2 golds, 2 silvers in athletics. Paul Masson, 3 golds in cycling. And Evangelos Damascos, 3 medals, 2 silver, and a bronze in athletics. I mean, Edwin Flack's not even on this. He should be on there. 2 gold and a bronze. That's more than technically above Evangelos Damascos. So thanks again for leaving out Edwin Flack. I don't know how accurate this is. Do you guys have anybody else that I've missed, or is that basically what we've all got?
The only person I had that you didn't say was Alfred Flatow of Germany. 3 golds, 1 silver in gymnastics. Germany's really just owned gymnastics at this Olympics. Yeah. 3 golds, 1 silver. Fortunately, he was Jewish and was deported to the Theresienstadt concentration camp during World War II.
Oh, well, there you go. That's not good. I'm thinking the Germans
ended on a good note.
The Germans won every gold with the exception of 3 in the gymnastics. The only ones they didn't win, pommel horse, went to Switzerland's Louis Zutter, and the Greeks won the rings and the rope. Bring back the rope climbing. That should be an Olympic sport.
If they have to do it in gym class, they should have to do it in the Olympics.
Ioannis Mitropoulos won the rings, and Nicholas Adriakopoulos won the rope climbing there. Top 10 medal table, which there was only 11 medal winning countries. One was a mixture of nations. So basically the 10 countries, 14 nations, 10 won medals. Do your percentages there. Probably the best we'll ever get in Olympics. USA topped the medal tally, and I'm doing this by the traditional method, which is by gold. 11 gold, 7 silver, 2 bronze. Greece second, 10 gold, 18 silver, 19 bronze. Germany, France, Britain, Hungary, Austria, Australia. Although this one here on the IOC website, they've only got us winning 2 gold. Obviously, maybe they don't count Edwin Flack's bronze. I mean, it wasn't an NOC medal, Ben, so what am I talking about? Denmark, and then Switzerland, and then the mixed NOCs. Canada, not placed because they didn't compete.
One other thing I wanted to comment on, we could have mentioned this earlier as well, but this weird thing about how silver medal is first place, and then they would give out the bronze medal or copper medal as a second. If you actually go through the individual events, not even all the events got a second place medal. Some of them were, we just award the first place a medal and then nothing else. So, I mean, all these medal tables are sort of done retroactively by the IOC. Yeah.
The IOC have officially gone over and said, like, yeah, well, I can't remember when they did that, but I mean, I appreciate this. I like the fact that they've gone and done this.
It's making everything even. But you have to wonder, like, was that another one of the budget things? We only have enough for this many copper medals, so half of you are going to go home with nothing.
The thing I will say just on America.
Well, they got the diploma.
I mean, yeah,
probably. Really, I mean,
paper was cheaper than copper in those days.
What's interesting to me is I think that when you think of these great nations and particularly modern Olympics, you know, generally we grew up. The top 3 nations at the Olympics are going to be the USA, Russia, and China. China is a fairly new nation when it comes to dominating the Olympics. It's only really in the last 30 or so years that they've done that. Russia obviously have had this history of like the Soviet Union and kind of things along those lines. I, for one, I don't know why growing up always kind of assumed that America was late to the party, that they necessarily didn't dominate early. But as we can see from the very first Olympics, but this was obviously a big surprise because a lot of these Americans sort of just got sent over. They didn't know. The Greeks were expected to
arrive late
because
ran out of money.
What was it like the calendar? They thought that the Olympics started because it was like a Greek calendar, not the
Julian calendar. Yeah.
I mean, like, Jamie, from an American perspective, is this kind of known? Like, this isn't me trying to bait you in the whole nature of America being cocky, but is it more of a case of when you celebrate your history, is it kind of known that America has always been this good?
I would assume that most Americans would assume that we've always been good at the Olympics. I wouldn't think that there was maybe not so much winter. I think, we still kind of hang our hat on Eric Heiden, Bonnie Blair, and the Miracle on Ice, and some figure skating here and there. But I think, Summer Olympics, because I also think that Summer Olympics, people instantly think of track and field and swimming. And, these are clearly two sports that we've, for the most part, dominated in. So yeah, I'm not surprised by it. I don't think most Americans would be surprised by it.
And Canadians just don't give a shit, basically. They're like, screw you guys down.
I mean, it's a pretty interesting time, United States. You're kind of at the end of the Gilded Age, which is what Mark Twain called the kind of the end of the 19th century, going into like the progressive era, where like a lot of radical changes and government restriction and thinking about, child labor laws and welfare and starting to get thrown around. So we're on an uptick at this point. So we, going into, we're also still pretty isolationist at this point. Like we had, we weren't thought of as a military power yet, so I don't know. I'd be interesting to know what historians write about what dominating or winning. I'm not going to say dominating, but winning at these Olympics, like how that factors into like America's view of itself at the turn of the century.
And we're going to see in some of these subsequent Olympics, particularly in the 1910s and the 1900s, early 1900s, like, when Britain are going to win like 200 gold medals because, it's just like, let's just fucking send everyone, and America will do the same. Like, it's going to be very like not what we see today, because, Olympics were very different. Home nations generally. That's why Greece, basically the majority of the athletes. It was very hard to travel in 1896. You're not just jumping on a Qantas or a Air Canada or a United flight. You're on a boat for a very long time. So yeah, it's medal tables and things.
And that's
like
for
that.
a while. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. You're not doing it for just an overnight one.
I wonder what the first Olympics was where people traveled more on planes to the Olympics than on boats.
Melbourne, Rome.
That'd be in the 30s, maybe.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it. I'd be more interested about sort of when, like, I mean, I guess when the jumbo jet was like the 60s, wasn't it? So sort of things like that. Yeah, good question. We'll learn that in our history, maybe going on the line. We usually at this point are going to go over things like unique facts when it comes to like first medals once. So like, we're going to get to certain points where, Uzbekistan wins its first medal, such and such, stuff like that. Random facts about our own country, like this was the first time Canada won a medal in shooting and things like that. It's 1896. Everything's a bloody first. And as we've already gone over, Edwin Flack, Australia's first ever not only medalist, but Olympic gold medalist, and James Connolly, USA's first. Is he known? Like Edwin Flack, synonymous in Australia as our first ever Olympic gold medalist. Is James Connolly a name that gets brought up like on a trivia night, or like who is America's first ever gold medalist?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Nope.
What about, I mean, I know we're a bit away from talking about it, Colin, but is Canada's first ever medalist talked about? Can you tell that off the tip of your tongue? Like, I could have told you Edwin Flack a year ago, 10 years ago, like, but obviously not. Maybe it's just an Australian thing.
No.
We know who our first ever Olympic medalists are. There you go. We've already gone over the medal tables. USA obviously were first. Australia was 10th. Canada not there. And we've gone over the top medal winners from the countries. These will be different, obviously, moving forward. But this is where I think we're going to have our little awards and I guess our legacies and things along those lines in the end. So before we get into that part to close it out, this is the subjective part, gentlemen. The athlete of the games. This is the granddaddy of them all. And I can say daddy this time around because they were only men. I'm not being sexist. Moving forward, it'll be the grand poobah, I guess. I don't know. But athlete of the games. Who is it to you? We'll go around the table and maybe we just come up with it as an overall at the end. So I'll throw it out there. Who are we nominating?
Colin?
Like, this is a tough one between Spiriton and Schumann, I think. Because are you going to go with the greatest story and the one that, people walk away from talking? Or you're going to go with the one who's most successful? And I mean, just to kind of, I guess, put a little bit, I feel like he'd be the more underdog in this category, but to put a little bit more of a push on Schumann. I mean, you look at the variety of sports he competed in: gymnastics, wrestling, weightlifting.
That's a perfect point you make. Sorry to interrupt, but like it's like at least with Esther, snowboarding and skiing are slightly connected. I know a snowboarder and a skier are going to yell at me and say they're completely different. I understand it, but to me, you've got things on your feet and you're going fast on snow. It's basically the same thing. This guy is in gymnastics, he's wrestling, and then he's lifting shit.
And those body types don't match up in those sports, you know?
Simone Biles is not going into weightlifting tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's no weight categories as well for wrestling or weightlifting here, so you don't know who you're competing against. Also, another fun thing, kind of anticlimactic, but I mean, the wrestling, that was a 2-day event because the match, the finals went so long that it got too dark for them to continue, and they had to pick it up the next day. So, so I think I'd lean a little bit more towards Schumann.
Bring that back. Bring back. Oh, the come back tomorrow. How did these games only take 2 weeks? That's why in St. Louis they went for like 8 months. So,
I think also knowing that there's other categories that Spirited is probably eligible for, whereas I don't know if I'd say Schumann would be.
I'm saying Schumann. I'm sorry, but I mean the guy won 4 medals in 2 sports and nearly won another one in a different sport. I mean, that's my vote. I'm giving a special nod to Edwin. Of course I could give a special nod. I mean, the guy just rocked up to tennis and won a medal by default, basically. But still, Schumann for me, Jamie.
Yeah, I think the fact that I'm blanking on the tennis player mentioned before, Colin.
Boland,
Boland, like the fact that Boland could do that, I think detracts a little bit away from Schumann's ability to compete across several sports. He wasn't the only one doing that. I think I agree with you on body type and weight class. Now, I don't know. So for me, it's Spiridon because of the legacy of the marathon. They made up this event, for these games, and it becomes, a cultural. I mean, like, now we've got, have you ever met someone who's run a marathon and won't shut up about how they ran a marathon? Like it's become such a cultural touchstone. Like so I'm with Spiridon for the giving birth to the marathon.
Okay. I just wanted some breaking news in the Athens Olympics here because I've actually undersold.
We're breaking news 100 and how many years later?
The
Edwin Flack has been awarded another medal.
The Schumann legacy gets better because he actually competed in another sport. He was in athletics. He competed in long jump, where it is unknown where he finished, just that he didn't finish in the top 4. He was 5th in the triple jump and bottom 3 in a 7-man field. So even if he was like bottom 3, he's in 5th, 6th, or 7th. In the shot put, this guy was in 4 different sports. No, I'm Schumann.
I'm backing Schumann, but I'm saying it because I also know I'm going to be pushing hard for Spirited in another category.
Look, I'm not disparaging Spirited. Like the guy is a legend, but I mean this guy. I mean apparently 1936 Germany. We'll be careful what we say here, but he apparently competed in the gymnastics exhibition at the Olympic Stadium during the 1936 Olympics. This guy was a legend of his country, and he lived to 76. Which I mean, in like the early 1900s, that's a bloody big thing to do, living to 76. So he survived the war. 1946, he died 1 year afterwards. So we're giving it to Carl?
I am.
That's 2 or 3.
I think we got a majority. Yeah.
Sorry, Jamie.
You should be on our Double Oz 7 episodes. They get a lot angrier.
You're going to vote for a track and field athlete in every single one of these bloody things. You'll get one eventually.
To be fair, yes, I'm going to.
Now, Ben, by your making your final point, you also voted for a track and field athlete.
Touche. Colin Hilding wins that. There you go. So track and field athlete still gets it, Jamie. So there you go. We should tally this at the end. And what sports are going to get it? We will. We'll tally that at the end. I guess technically 4 sports get it this time around. Best host moment. I mean, is it just Greece hosting the Olympics from the fact that they had the ancient Olympics and they got their shit together to do it? I don't know.
I think the involvement of the royal family, like consistently, not just opening ceremonies, but like closing ceremonies. the prince throwing weights and crossing the finish line. I think the royal family's involvement is a pretty big moment for a host nation.
Jamie, anything to add?
I mean, no, I've nothing contrary to say about Greece. Great moment for Athens.
So to clarify, what is our best host moment? Is it the involvement? Like, is that what you clarifying that as, Colin? Because I'm happy to go with that.
Yeah, I would say the royal family's involvement as a whole from start to finish.
The organizing committee president was also in the royal family, wasn't he? So
I mean, they helped fund and they were funding these things too.
Yeah, no, that's true. So that will go with it. Story of these games that should be turned into a movie. Is this where you're bringing up Spiros, Colin?
That would be one. The other one would be, I think you mentioned it. What was her name? Stamata Ravithi, the one who ran the course after the event to kind of make a point. I could see movie. I could see that being a movie, but like I think Spiridon's movie, I can visualize it in my head even better as this is like the triumphant story. This would be like watching Miracle. It would be like watching Race. It would be one of those big Olympic movies. Cool Runnings.
The tennis dude, pretty good though. Launceston's
I think that
bulge.
Launceston's bulge. We're in the middle of making him in the cult hero category right now just by talking about that.
I mean, Sumner goes on to
there's some really good ones here. I think that's what's so interesting about these Olympics.
Sumner goes on to not kill his wife. or her lover. Excuse me.
The lover. Yeah. It's a stacked category for great stories. I'm kind of shocked that outside of that miniseries, they haven't made more out of this because there's plenty of great stories here. But yeah, I'd lean a little bit more towards Spiridon, but I also think that Stamata would be another good backup.
Jamie, I'll let you.
I'll back actually Flack. I mean, your point that he has a statue in Australia and the first American to win is. Most people get him confused with another James Connolly. So, I think, putting the entire nation on his back all by himself, going there and winning 3 events, winning medals in 3 events.
Showed up for a third, default bronze.
He showed up for third and, so I'll nominate him, but I think Spiridon probably gets the nod.
Look, I do want to be that dick and outvote everyone just to get Edwin to win something here, but no, I think it's...
If this were Double Oz 7, he would be outvoting us.
But I think that be known. I'll put that as a footnote that there should be an Australian mini-series or movie on Edwin Flack. If we were to keep this... Maybe this can be a separate category, like if you were to have your own country's mini-series or something like that. So Edwin Flack by far, and it surprises me that we've not really had that proper one, but I did appreciate him being involved in that mini-series, so that was nice that they did that. But yeah, no, I think Spiridon. I mean, it is one of these ones where it should be told. Maybe Greece have the VH1 mini-series on Spiridon, we don't know. But yeah, I think in terms of, Colin summed it up well there in terms of like a miracle style story, Cool Runnings, underdog. That would be good. But I mean, I guess we're going over. There's so many good ones here that we could definitely do. And Stamata running that is a very 2025 movie. So you could see that coming about. Fits in with how we are today. Cold Hero is at Launceston. I mean, Colin's buggered off right now for a phone call, but Jamie.
I mean, it is now.
He's bulges. Launceston's bulge.
Yeah, I mean, I hope awarding this award to whoever at the Olympics had the biggest bulge does not become a repetitive thing we're doing. But yeah, I think we've made him the cult hero.
Is it okay? Yeah. I think I don't know if was this the category where we couldn't quite come up with who do we name this after? Is this like the Ray Gun Award or anything? I mean, I feel like because this is the inaugural one of these that we just moving forward call this. I was going to go more likely with the Launceston Elliott Award, but if you want to call it the Bulgy,
we can call it the Bulgy.
Well, it's the award and then the actual trophy's name.
Yeah, like the Academy Awards and the Oscar. Yeah. So it's the Launceston Elliott Award, but the trophy is the bulge. Can we get an AI to just take a cut out of Launceston Elliott's bulge and that's your trophy?
You're holding like a giant appendage in your hand. I want to thank the Academy for my bulgy. I mean,
isn't that the name of the Australian Movie Awards, the bulges?
You think it's a Logies for our TV awards? I right now, like I need to get some other things on my. I'm gonna get a bulgy. Yeah. Nice.
Oh, that could be your next like plushy toy after the OTP mascot.
We dropped how much money on those cherries? I will drop the same amount of money for a replica bulgy.
Oh, sorry.
Not this Jamie. My wife Jamie will drop that much money for a replica.
Oh, Jamie will have every bulgy. She needs a good bulgy. Sorry. Jamie, I have a very short-term memory, as you can tell. What are we giving the Edwin Flack Award for moving forward? The athlete who just showed up, or what was that one for?
Oh no, I don't think we should name that after it. I don't know what I said. I have a very short-term memory too.
This is great. So
this is about as organized as the first Olympics. I think we're doing a grand job.
Yeah, it's appropriate. Yeah.
I mean, it is 1 a.m. for me, so it's like early for you guys. Oh, I got up at 5 o'clock, Jamie. Yes, I know. The One Hit Wonder Award. So this is, I don't know what this is. Why do we have a One Hit Wonder Award? What are we giving this for the knack? For I'm
gonna say Sumner, but I don't know if we want to give him an award.
Is this like
actually it's not a one hit wonder, it's a 4 miss wonder.
Yeah, 4 miss wonder.
I guess this is going to be like we can come up with different things.
I think this is kind of the same as the Cult Hero Awards, maybe.
Yeah, kind of.
This one might not work going forward the further we get into these.
Ray gun every time. Let's scrap that award. Screw that award. I don't know what that is. Nah, we don't need that award. What was I'm annoyed about the Edwin Flack Award now. What that was meant to be. The guy. It's what we're gonna use to replace the One Hit Wonder Award. So we have the athlete of the games is Carl Schumann. We can call that the Michael Phelps Award. The best host moment, that can be, I don't know, the Greek.
I thought we were calling that the Kathy Freeman Award.
Sure. The Kathy Freeman. Oh, this is great. The story of these games turned into a movie, the Cool Runnings Award, the Spirit and Lewis marathon story, and the Bulgy, the cult hero of the game. The Launceston Elliott. There we go. All right. We're running a little bit over time, but we'll go through these ones. So this is a legacy, the conclusion area where we're going to go over sort of some of these things. And again, a lot of this will, maybe the more than the modern ones are not really going to fit in this one. This one's going to fit in well. So the legacy in Athens, the legacy in the country of Greece. I mean, to me, it's the Olympics. It's the home of the Olympics. It was born in Greece. The birth, I mean, many of these venues did go on to be used in 2004. And I think Athens, I think Greece, I think Olympics. I mean, I'm living right now in the second biggest population of Greeks on the planet outside of Athens. Melbourne, fun fact for you, has the second largest Greek population on the planet outside of Athens. So Greece has a lot of heritage in Australia. So we have a lot of Greek culture. But to me, I think Greece, I think of the Olympics. So to me, that's an easy one. The legacy of Athens 1896 is it's the Olympics, the birth of the Olympics. It's a simple one. And Greece, for the country overall, I mean, we talked about Spiridon. He's still revered in Greece to this day as an icon of that country. So, and all the traditions like Olympia and the venues, the stadiums, we haven't really talked about sort of that iconic stadium that they refurbished to host these games, which is still there in Athens. I'd love to go to Greece to see that and see the history. And I know many Olympians almost see it as a birthright, a spiritual pilgrimage to go to that famous location. That archery there, if I'm not mistaken, in 2004, like things like that just are so iconic. So I'm rambling. Anything else you want to chime in that I'm not mentioning as a legacy for Greece and the country and the city? But to me, that's an easy one.
Yeah, I agree. I had a little bit more on this. We talked about choosing the city earlier, but I had a little bit more on this in this part. I mean, I think it seems like, obviously this is where they should have, but I think there was some really interesting foresight because, I mean, at the time, I feel like if they had tried to have them in Paris, then maybe Great Britain would have been like, no, we're not going to France, or Germany would have been like, we're not doing it in France, and we'll they wouldn't tried to have it in Berlin or London, then France wouldn't have taken part of it. And it was kind of like Athens was kind of out of that mix of the industrialized northern countries, and you couldn't argue with it. Like with the historical context, it seems like a perfect choice. But I'd love to know more about the insider trading that went on, and whether it was as obvious a choice then as it seems to be now.
Cool. I didn't know if you had anything to add there, Colin.
I mean, you guys kind of sum it up. It's summer it up. Yeah. But like, this is the origin. And like, when you mention all those venues and everything, I mean, it's crazy to think that it took so long for the Olympics to go back to Athens, because it is what you associate them with. I mean, if you had asked me pre-2004, how many times do you think Athens has hosted the Olympics? I probably would have said, probably get it every 20, 30 years, just like Salt Lake City or Los Angeles. But it took so long, and yet it's synonymous with it. And kind of going back to what I was saying at the beginning, I don't think the Olympics have that prestige if it's in Paris, even though arguably the organization and the modern Olympics owes more to France than it does to Greece. I think the execution of it is all Greece.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And I think that it's an interesting point you make about, like, you think about how many times Athens would have hosted. I mean, technically they hosted the Intercalated Games, which we will do an episode on. But I mean, there was talk after this that Athens should hold the Olympics every 4 years. Sort of this should be the birthright and the home for it. But yeah, back to my point, I'm so happy that we did get a modern Olympics, a modern Olympics. I realize these are the modern Olympics, but like in our lifetime Olympics of Athens. And the one thing that I always do love talking to guests on this show who have went to the 2004 Olympics is that while there's so much negativity around the legacy of those games, and I know we're a long time away from covering these Olympics, but the majority of athletes have always said how special it was to compete at the home of the Olympics in 2004. And that made it such a special moment for them as an Olympian to be in that city. So, yeah, I'm sure if we can all get to Athens one day, we'll be going to these sites and seeing it. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, the overall legacy of the Olympics, I think we've answered that basically in that section there. I mean, it's the birth of the Olympics. We're not
it's interesting you mentioned that there was talk about having it there all the time. I think that decision to not do that might be important to the Olympics as the decision to have the first one in Athens, because I don't think the Olympics survive if they try to have them every time in Greece.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. This is a very weird comparison and a connection I'm trying to make, but it's kind of like Survivor. The fact that Survivor isn't as good anymore, that they just do it in the same bloody place every single time, right? What was amazing about that show in the early years is they went to a different location every single season. It was great. Now it's just fucking Fiji all the time. Imagine if, we might be seeing that with the Winter Olympics in the future, sadly, because of climate change. We might just be alternating between a couple of cities. But a lot of the magic of the Olympics for me is that they do go to a different city every single time. So, and I think this is also a section where when we get to the Olympics, when the cauldron's introduced and things like that, that's a legacy. So on that note, Colin brought it up. The hymn was written for these Olympics. So that was a legacy. Yeah. There were, sort of ceremonies, not to the level that we obviously have today, but there were still ceremonies. And just, I think also, this is a bit wanky maybe, but it served as an event to bring the world together. And we still have that to this day, what the Olympics are. It is the only event on this planet that brings every country together for a peaceful event. There's nothing else that does it like the Olympics. So even to this day, the legacy of this very first Olympics, and there were only 14 countries, yes, but it was a different time. The travels was a little bit different and all that sort of stuff. But it created that. It created, just from a non-sporting perspective, this unique event that can bring every person on this planet together to watch people do shit. So, yeah, legacy along the lines of those sort of things there. Any final thoughts? So, go ahead, Colin.
I was just going to add, you also have to wonder, was it these games or was it the ones that followed it that have given it that lasting legacy? Because there were other games like this prior to this, de Coubertin basically modeled this after the Wenlock Games, which was modeled after the ones before that, which modeled after ones before that, which modeled after the Olympics, right? So that's what will be interesting once we get to 1900 to see if the real legacy was 1896 was such an instant hit that this was always going to stand the test of time. Or did they kind of luck out? That's like, hey, with a little bit of better organization, it kind of worked out better next time.
It's like,
yeah, because we're heading into a period where the world's in a way is getting smaller, right? Like travel gets easier every 4 years, but at this point by leaps and bounds, kind of. But also, like, we're about to run into a significant European world event that could have also ended them. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to track kind of along the way. Like, what happened at a particular Olympics to build on the legacy to make sure it was a little bit stronger to get it through the next challenge, whether it be war or famine or not famine or plague or, other political, issues.
Lovely stuff in the world that we don't care to talk. I mean, I'm not a history person, so that's why we just spent 20 minutes talking about frickin' Mr. Bowell of Canada and Grover Cleveland, Ben. So anyway, any other final thoughts that we have before we sort of look ahead to the next one? I mean, I will say I thoroughly enjoyed researching and going through this. I admit I didn't put in the effort that I initially planned and wanted to, but from what I was able to gather and piece together, it is fascinating. It is really, really interesting. Ultimately, we know when we get to the games that we're alive for, we remember watching, things like that. It's going to hold nostalgia and things for different reasons. But when we're doing these ones that none of us were alive for, that we know only brief things over history, that it is fascinating. All jokes aside, to learn about the Launceston Elliots of the world, like, that bulge should be talked about more. So, yeah. That's my final thoughts, I think, on Athens 1896, and it's great that we have this event to thank for this podcast and to thank for the Olympic Games in general.
Agreed. Looking forward to 1900. We got Basque Pelota. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Ballooning.
The elusive sport.
We talked about that. What did we talk about?
That Pan Am Games.
Pan Am's, yeah.
A fist fight at the long jump. Like, we got good stuff coming up.
Well, we're really about to enter this period of just like absolute WTF of the Olympics, because Paris 1900 for a long period of time was barely even classified as Olympics, because this is what held along the World's Fair. This was just secondary. This was not even a thought. This is that period where like Olympics would go on for like 8 months. And then all of a sudden over the history, they're going like, yeah, well, car racing took part, so maybe we count that as an Olympic sport. Like, there was nothing about this period of the Olympics we're about to enter that made any sense. And this is where we're going to get some Launceston Elliott style stories in these games. So the unique thing about getting to the next games too is, of course, we're literally off the back of the most recent Olympics in Paris. If you're listening to this at the time we're releasing this, we're a year removed, literally, from Paris 2024. If you're listening to in the future, we're dating a little bit, but that's where we're at. So I think that Paris holds that unique perspective of that, now that it's a 3-time Olympic host city. But yeah, man, like the Wild West of the Olympics are the the early 1900s, where we're about, Athens is just tame. Launceston's bulge, nothing compared to what we're about to get to.
I don't know if it was similar with either of you, but I kind of almost dreaded, how much work is it going to be to find interesting stuff on Athens 1896, because you knew it was so small scale in comparison, and then you knew how crazy it was going to get, like once we get to Paris and once we get to St. Louis and stuff like that. But I think the fact that this was smaller scale, it helped to zero in a lot more on this is really interesting. And really, when you look at it, every single sport had something really unique and interesting happen, but it doesn't quite feel tainted. I think that's the big, once we start going forward to the next couple of games, and it'll make for great episodes, but that prestige we're talking about, they somehow pulled it off in Athens here, that I don't know if it's going to be the same once we get through the next couple of games. They will be a little bit like, this isn't flying by the seat of your pants. It's just a lot of bad decisions that didn't stick.
I just want to point out
a lot of bad decisions.
I point out that you think I'm joking when it comes to the length of time these Olympics took place. The opening ceremony is on the 14th of May. The closing ceremony is on the 28th of October. Now, we love the Olympics, Can you imagine, Colin Hilding? You just did this for 2 weeks last year, doing a daily episode for 5 months. Like, I love the Olympics. Even then, I'm maybe going, yeah, it's a bit too much.
You know what? I would have Vicolas that. I would have been like, hey, you know what? It's day 10. I'm out. You take it, Cooperton.
I'm done. I will also point out, just by the way, that generally once we get to them and once we can do alternations, if that's a word, we obviously would follow a Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics. So if people are thinking this is purely the Summer Games, we're not ignoring the Winter Games because, as most people who listen to the show long term know, I prefer the Winter Games over the Summer Games. We are literally doing these in order. So we are going to have to wait till 1924, until we can get to Chamonix. And then we will also do them in order from that point on. But I will clarify that we will be doing the 1906 Intercalated Games, even though they're technically not officially an Olympics, but we were doing that. And then we'll also do some sort of episode, I think once we get to about the 40s, where we will just do like a what could have been type episode. So we'll do what Olympics we missed in the 1910s because of World War I. Then ultimately we'll get to that. So just in how these are going to work structurally, it's not like the opening ceremony episodes where we just draw from a hat. This is what we're doing next. We thought about that, but we thought just in terms of how the history builds of these, it makes sense to do them chronologically so we can take you on that Olympic history journey on the way. So if you're listening to, maybe this could be the very first Off the Podium episode you've ever listened to because you want to hear the history of Athens, welcome to the show. We've got some other great content. Honestly, we don't. It's pretty shit for most of the time. But sometimes every now and then we strike a winner. But if you're joining us, we hope that you enjoy this and we hope it goes along well. I'm going to say, gentlemen, this turned out all right. We fluffed a few things and we're going to learn. But yeah, I'm satisfied with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Colin?
Me as well. I caught half of your statement, but I agree.
You're getting excited for Canada showing. Did Canada show up in 1900?
Sort of. We're not representing Canada, but we will have athletes at least. We're going to Edwin Flack. That'll be the Edwin Flack Award. The Edwin Flack Award is you're there, but you're not representing your country.
And make the most of it, guys. The first and only time we can ever just be men, and just talk about us only. So there you go. Just pull out the men card. No, I don't know why I'm ending it with that. This has been a lot of fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Jamie, thank you. You have already started USA's dominance, and we look forward to the next 87 episodes of you talking about, we win so many medals. We're so good.
Is that my voice? I guess it is. Yeah.
At least now. And Colin, thank you for living up to Canadian stereotypes and not talking about much success at the Summer Olympics.
No, I was just happy to break with Canadian tradition and show up for 1896 Athens.
OffThePodiumPod.com links to all of our social pages where you can get the pods and everything else along the lines. If you've enjoyed today's episode, my name has been Edwin Flack. And if you haven't enjoyed this episode, it has been Launceston Elliott. Good night.